At 11:47 p.m., someone sends a message. Can you call? You call. You find the hotel. Rewrite the email. Calm the panic. Make a plan. Everyone knows who to contact when something breaks. You. But 3 days later, when your own life begins to come apart, you tell no one. You make another list. You work later. You wait until the problem is almost impossible to hide. Why does being the person everyone trusts make it so difficult to trust anyone with your unfinished life? The answer is not that reliable people need less help. Often, they have simply become very good at making need invisible. To understand why, we need to separate competence from identity. Then, we need to look at 2 prediction errors that happen when we ask for help, and 1 small change that makes receiving it feel safer. Reliability usually begins as a useful behavior. You remember the deadline. You carry the extra bag. You notice what everybody else forgot. People relax when you enter the room because they expect the situation to become more manageable. That feels good. Being useful creates order. It may bring praise, belonging, or control. And after enough repetition, a behavior can quietly become a role. Now you are not simply someone who helps. You are the one who can handle it. This is where the hidden cost appears. Every role creates expectations. Other people expect you to stay steady. More importantly, you begin to expect it from yourself. A normal moment of confusion no longer feels like a temporary condition. It feels like evidence that you may not be who everyone thinks you are. So when someone offers help, you do not only evaluate the offer, you also evaluate the threat. What will they see if I say yes? Will I owe them? Will they discover that I am not as capable as I look? If I stop carrying this for 1 moment, will everything else fall with it? This is not a diagnosis, and it is not true of every competent person. It is a useful model. Reliability becomes dangerous when it changes from a skill into an admission ticket. When you begin to believe that usefulness is what earns your place in the relationship. Then receiving help does not feel like cooperation. It feels like breaking character. The strange thing is that the danger often looks larger from inside the request than it does from the other side. In a 2022 series of studies involving more than 2,000 adults in the United States, people who needed help consistently underestimated how willing others would be to help. They also underestimated how positive helpers would feel, and overestimated how inconvenienced those helpers would feel. An earlier set of experiments found a similar gap. People making direct requests underestimated the likelihood that others would agree, sometimes by a very large margin. In other words, the person asking and the person being asked are often imagining 2 different events. The asker imagines an imposition. The helper may experience trust, usefulness, or a welcome chance to contribute. Reliable people may be especially vulnerable to this mistake, not because research has identified a single, reliable person syndrome, but because their daily experience trains them to calculate burden. They know exactly how much work help can require. So they price the request using the effort they would invest, then assume the other person will feel the same cost. There is a second fear, looking incompetent. But research on advice seeking found that this fear can also be miscalibrated. Across several experiments, people were often judged as more competent after asking someone for advice, especially when the task was difficult and the person they asked had relevant expertise. That does not mean every request is wise, or that every person is safe. It means the social equation is not as simple as need help, lose respect. Sometimes the request communicates something else. I know what I do not know. I know why your judgment matters, and I care enough about the result to ask. There is one more problem. If receiving help feels threatening, you delay it. You try 1 more solution, then 5 more. You remove every part of the request that might inconvenience someone. You wait for the perfect wording. By the time you finally speak, the problem is larger, the deadline is closer, and your nervous system is exhausted. Now the request really is heavy. The delay appears to confirm the original belief. See? Asking for help creates chaos. But the chaos was not created by asking. It was concentrated by waiting. The alternative is not to announce your entire private life to everyone. It is to practice a smaller form of dependence before the emergency. Try making the request early, specific, and bounded. Not, "I'm a disaster. Can you save me?" But, "I'm stuck between two options. Could you give me 10 minutes and tell me what I may be missing?" Not, "Can you help with this project?" But, "Could you read the first 2 paragraphs before 6 and tell me where the argument becomes unclear?" And when the person says yes, do not immediately erase the gift by saying it was nothing, apologizing 6 times, or promising repayment before they have even helped. Just say, "Thank you. This makes a real difference." That sentence may feel strangely exposed because it admits that another person affected the outcome. That is precisely the point. Healthy interdependence is not the absence of competence. It is the ability to remain competent without pretending that competence is self-created. Every reliable person is already standing on invisible support. Teachers, tools, public systems, accumulated knowledge, someone who answered a question years ago. Accepting one visible piece of help does not destroy independence. It makes the existing network honest. So, why does being reliable make receiving help difficult? Because reliability can become more than a strength. It can become a contract you never consciously signed. I provide stability. I do not require it. Once that contract becomes part of your identity, every need feels like a breach. Then your mind exaggerates the cost of asking, underestimates the generosity on the other side, and waits until a small request becomes a rescue mission. The solution is not to become less reliable. It is to update the definition. A reliable person is not someone who carries every weight alone. A reliable person notices reality early, communicates clearly, and brings in the right support before preventable damage spreads. Sometimes the most responsible sentence in the room is not, "I've got it." It is, "I need another pair of hands." Think of one problem you are currently trying to make invisible. Before it grows, send one person a request that is early, specific, and small. If this explained a pattern you have lived but never named, subscribe. There are more hidden patterns where this one came from.